What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dylan Talks Tone. Today we're gonna go into some acoustic stuff. We've been getting some requests for this, so I thought, let's do it. I've got an acoustic guitar here that I need to do some setup on. This is my 2023, I guess. 23? Yeah. Martin D28. Now, I've had this guitar for almost a year. And, well, I guess not almost a year, maybe 9 or 10 months or so. And I really love it. I play it all the time. You don't see it on the channel very much, but I freaking love this thing. I've never done any setup on it. It's been just the factory setup. But I got a buddy of mine who is kind of like a Martin specialist. He's the guy that everybody around here brings all their acoustic stuff to. So I was talking to him yesterday about the specs that he uses when he sets up a new Martin. And I was thinking, let me try it. It feels fine to me, but I think we can make it better. I think the action is too high. When you do an acoustic, it is a little more involved than an electric because you can't just grab a wrench. So let's go ahead and dive in to the setup on this thing. Now, before we get started on the actual turning wrenches and sanding stuff, because that's what we're going to have to do on this guitar, there is a couple of things that I think we should do ahead of time. One is definitely have the strings on the guitar that you want to play on the guitar beforehand. Now, normally I would say on an electric, I would say just buy a new set of strings, the one that you're going to use, and set the guitar up with those strings. The thing is the acoustic, you kind of need to know what's going on before you start anything. So maybe put the new set on, play through it, okay, now it's time to change them. I wouldn't wait too long though. I wouldn't have like a year-old set of strings on the guitar. I would have something that was relatively, so that the tension was still good, everything was still, they were acting kind of the way you want them to. Kind of basically what I'm saying is, be in the mood to change the strings on your guitar early. That's what I would do. So these strings aren't that old. Basically, you're going to kind of waste a set. You don't have to, but I'm going to. So let's go ahead and get this thing, because that gets all your tensions and everything where you want them to be. And the guitar is tuned to pitch and everything is cool. So let's go ahead and get this thing on the bench and let's take our first measurements. All right, so the guitar is tuned to pitch. You notice that I do not have a neck rest underneath here. People are gonna get all bent about that. I don't care. I really want to be able to just measure the neck with no stress on it. Yes, I know people are gonna get in the comments and talk about horizontal versus playing position, but it's hard to film it that way. So I'm gonna double check everything, but here we go. So let's go ahead and grab a capo and put it on the first fret. So there we go. And I'm gonna go ahead and fret it pretty much right about here because I want to do it where the neck attaches to the guitar. And I know some people may go back here, but really it's here for flex wise. And I want to check about halfway in between here what the neck relief is. Now, my buddy told me somewhere between 4 and 7 thousandths is where he likes to keep his. So we're gonna go for 5 to 6. And so I'm gonna go ahead and put this in here. And I feel like that might be a little loose. So we're gonna go ahead and grab our wrench and we're gonna slide it between here. So basically I need the middle of the neck to go up a little bit. So we're going to tighten it and that's going to bring the middle of the neck up for those of you that are not familiar. I'm only going to go about 1/8 of a turn, maybe not even that much. Okay, let's go ahead and check that again. Feel like we still need to go a little more. Okay, I'm gonna go with that. I like that. Tightened it up just a little bit. And so we've got about 6/1000 of relief there. I straightened the neck just a little bit, like there was a little bit too much relief. So that's what we're gonna go with. Now, here's where we get into some fun stuff. Because on an acoustic guitar, in order to lower the action on the guitar, we actually need to sand the bottom of the saddle, which means we need to take it out, which sort of sucks. It takes some time. So we need to take some measurements and we need to do some maths so that we get this right and that we don't do it a bunch of times and ruin a part, because if you sand that down too far, then you're too far. And you don't want that to happen. So let's grab a notepad and let's take some notes. All right, so first of all, what he told me is on the treble side to go for somewhere around 1/16 of an inch, which works out to about 62 thousandths of an inch. And on the bass side, he told me to go for 5/64. So that ends up being somewhere around 90 thousandths. So that's what we're going to go for. Now we're going to have to do some math here, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Now, for those of you that are going to jump in the comments and be like, what is that in metric? I'm going to show you a really fun tool. Watch this. Hey Siri, what is 1/16 of an inch in millimeters? Is equal to 2 millimeters. See how easy that is? So even if I don't say what the millimeters are, it's very easy for you to find that out. Okay, let's go ahead and take what our baseline measurements are on this guitar. We're going to use our Stumac gauge that everybody loves to trash on. Let's go ahead and zero that real well. Oh yeah, we're at 120. Let's just double check that real quick again. Yeah, okay, so right now our bass side, our current measurements are 120 thousandths. So that's a lot. And we need to be down to 90, so that means we need to come down 30 thousandths, which is, we'll talk about why it's important to know that in a minute. So let's go ahead and check our treble side, 99 thousandths. So really, we need to come down a lot. Okay, so here comes the question. How much do we need to take off the saddle? We basically need to take twice as much off the saddle as we have to move it. So if we have to move the treble side 30,000, or the bass side 30 thousandths, then we have to take 60 thousandths off the saddle on this side. All right, and on the treble side, I'm gonna go for taking off 35 thousandths, okay? So that's what we're gonna have to take off on the treble side. So that means that we'll need to take off 70 thousandths on this side, 60 thousandths on this side, because we need to go ×2 whatever we're gonna move over here. All right, so just let's be super clear about what we're doing here. I don't wanna confuse everybody. These are the goals that I'm really trying to go for, okay? So on the high E side, the treble side, I'm going for 1/16 of an inch, which is 62 thousandths. I'm going for 5/64 of an inch on the bass side, which is 90 thousandths. We currently have on the treble side 99 thousandths, and on the bass side 120 thousandths. which means on the base side we need to take off 30 thousandths, and on the treble side we need to take off 35 thousandths. But what we actually, so how much material do we have to remove? We need to remove times 2 the goal amount. So on the saddle, so if we've got the saddle like this, right? And here is the bass side. So this is our low E side. And this is our treble side. Then we will need to remove 70 thousandths of an inch on this side. And we'll need to remove 60 thousandths of an inch on this side. Okay? And it's very important that it is way straighter than this line that I drew, right? We need to make sure that we not only get this right and don't flip the saddle around backwards, but we also make sure that when we do it, the saddle is totally flat on the bottom so that it doesn't mess with our intonation. Because if we tilt the saddle one way or the other, it gives us trouble with intonation. So we really need to make sure that we get this right. So here is how we are going to do that. I bought one of these. I have them on, they're on Amazon. I'll leave a link to it in the description. And basically what it is it's like a little sled that you put the saddle in, and it's very, very flat on the bottom. And then you put some sandpaper on a flat surface and you run it back and forth on it, and it will give you the dimensions that you need. Now there's a couple things I learned about this before we're doing this. I wanted to double check. So let me get the saddle out of the guitar. Here is the saddle. I marked the low E with a Sharpie so that I wouldn't forget what we're doing here. But basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna slide this in between here. I guess we need to loosen this up a little bit. And what we're gonna do is these screws set the depth for how deep it goes in there, right? Okay, so we're gonna, and then we're just gonna, basically what we're gonna do is tighten this up just to get a baseline. So the idea behind this thing is the nut's gonna stick out the bottom. You're gonna run it on some sandpaper, and it's going to bring it down to the depth that you want. So I know that we need to take 60 thousandths off the bass side, which is this side. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our calipers on the depth setting. And I'm going to set this for 60 thousandths, and I am going to we've got our saddle set in there to take off. A little more on this side than on this side, and I added 10 thousandths because when you set this down, I already measured it with a feeler gauge, the wheels have to roll right. So there's 10 thousandths between here, so it adds 10 thousandths. So whatever you need to take off, add 10 thousandths back. Yes, I know there's a bunch of math in here, so we'll recap it in the end. So let me show you how we're gonna make sure that this stays flat. All right, so the flattest thing I could think of was I have granite countertops in my kitchen. So we're going to just run this thing on here, and we're going to see how it goes. Now at first it's going to be a little tippy because you're still going to be on top of everything, right? Like it's still tall, but we'll just see how it goes here. All right, so now we have basically bottomed out. So we've got 10 thousandths sticking out there, it looks like. Yeah, cool. Yep. So basically the sandpaper's not really biting anymore, and we've hit the bottom. All right. 90 and 67. You know, that's pretty dang close. I think we're gonna leave it right there. Okay, I'm gonna call that pretty close. I was talking to my buddy about it actually, and he was telling me every guitar is a little different, obviously, you know, when it comes to just handmade stuff, more or less. And I don't want the bridge saddles to be any closer down here. So I'm gonna leave this at 62 or 67. I know the goal was 62 thousandths, but I'm gonna just leave it there. It plays fine. I just kind of strummed it through and, you know, checked for any buzzes or anything. It seems fine. I would strongly recommend at this point to put a new set of strings on it. I'm using these Stringjoy Foxwoods. I'll leave a link to them in the description. They are coated, but they don't feel like elixirs. I hate elixirs. I use 13 to 56s. That's what's on it now. In fact, these strings, a set of these strings is on it now. The reason you want to change them is because you've brought the bridge down, the saddle down, I mean, and that has caused the breakover point of the strings now to be in a different place. So now what you have is a little kink in the string past where the saddle is. So your tuning stability will be screwed up. It'll be more likely to break. Plus you've worked this, you know, kind of metal worked. The areas down here where it goes over the saddle is different. All this stuff, there's maybe a little kink right here in the wrong place. You're gonna break a string. They're not going to stay in tune as well because of all of that. So I would definitely at this point recommend putting a new set of strings on. So I'm going to do that now. And we're going to give this thing a play. While we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and use some Lizard Spit Fretboard Oil. We have this available at the website, as well as all the other Lizard Spit products that we like. I will tell you that this stuff works awesome and it lasts forever. I've actually been working on this same bottle for probably about 5 or 8 years. So it lasts a long time. It works well. Keeps your fretboard clean. Okay, let's talk about something real quick. Don't be a dork when you change your strings on your guitar, okay? You see how this is just basically wrapped around a few times and the string is coming through. There's no stupid knot. There's no stupid kink. There's no stupid over, under BS. You don't need to do any of that. If you put 3 wraps or so-ish around the tuning key, the string will slide up as you tune it the first time, and it will lock the string against the edge of the hole. And you will not make your guitar tech hate you, and you will not be in a situation where it's a pain in the butt to change the string on the fly when you're at a gig or whatever. This will never go out of tune. This will not do anything dumb. Just don't be a dork. Like, actually just be a normal person and put your strings on like a normal person. Okay, rant over. Well, I think this thing worked out pretty well. It plays fantastically, and I'm glad I went to the work to do it. We're on a different shotgun mic now if it sounds different because acoustic. One of the reasons I'd been putting this off is because I was going to put a pickup in it. And of course, when you put a pickup under the saddle, that changes everything. And I was like, you know, I'm never going to gig this guitar. I have other guitars, you know, I have my McPherson, I have my Breedlove, I have other guitars for that. So I'm not gonna gig this guitar. There's no reason to really ever plug it in. I just want to leave it alone and just have a D28 for the purpose of having a D28, right? So that's why I had put this off, because I knew it needed it, but you know. Anyway, it plays great, it sounds great, it works great, everything's good, it came out perfect. A couple of notes on this. One thing I would do, remember I said to start before you do this with this setup? One thing I neglected to mention is make sure that the humidity in your guitar case and in your house is good before you do this stuff. Hey buddy. Before you do this stuff, because you want the guitar to be as stable as possible, okay? So make sure that your humidity is in a good range in your house. Also make sure that you have strings around. Make sure that you can get good, accurate baseline measurements is what I'm saying. The other note I would mention is it took me twice with the little roller skate thing to get this right. I did the math. The math was fine. Everything was cool. But I wanted to be sure. You know, I didn't want to take too much off and then regret it because I screwed it up, right? So I know the math was right and it ended up being right, but I went at it in kind of like 2 shots. So that meant that I had to take the strings off the guitar. Basically, I just loosened them, pulled the pins and pulled the strings out of the way, pulled the saddle out, went and did it, put it back in, put the pins back in, tuned it back up to pitch, measured it again, detensioned it again, took the pins back out, took the saddle back out, and did it twice. I just wanted to be 100% sure. And it turned out great. Everything's fine, but I just, you don't want to do it twice. Hey dude, come here. He doesn't like acoustic guitars. Bandit doesn't like acoustic guitars. He doesn't mind electric ones, but he doesn't like acoustic ones. Come here. They're a little too noisy. There you go. If I were to strum a big chord right now, he would take off. Okay, so that's what I would say about that. Make sure you have the strings around that you're going to use, all that sort of stuff. I know that there's more ways of doing this. I know that there's going to be a bunch of super traditional people who are like, you have to do this with some kind of pencil sharpener and chisel and rasp from the 1800s to do this right or whatever. I don't care. Put in the comments how you do it, obviously, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. So, but it came out great. That's awesome. So if you have an acoustic guitar that has a saddle like this, this is kind of the way you have to do it. And it takes a little more work than a regular electric guitar. Just make sure it's flat, make sure your measurements are good, and make sure you take off twice as much as you have to move it here to get it where you want it. If you have any questions about it, if you're wondering anything about it, let me know. Get in the comments. We've got a bunch of content coming out this week because I'm behind because I took the 4th of July weekend off. So we will be doing a bunch of stuff. We got new pickups coming out. We got a bunch of new stuff on the other channel. So do me a favor and subscribe and like and all that sort of stuff. And I'll leave links to everything we used in this video in the description below. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you in the next video.